What's up, everybody? Coach Daisha here, bringing you this week's hot topic. And today we're going to talk about hormones. Now, I briefly mentioned them in one of my prior episodes just a couple of weeks ago, but today's episode, I want to go a little bit deeper and dive into four of the major hormones that are affected not only as we age, but if we've been diagnosed with either osteopenia or osteoporosis. With each hormone that I'm talking about, I also want to give a very quick tip on what you can do from either a fitness or recovery standpoint to help counteract the natural declines that we have in certain hormones. So let's get started. All right, first up in this list of very important hormones is going to be the one that, especially for us females, we think about the most, and that is estrogen. So let's talk about estrogen and its role with bones. Estrogen is one of its main roles in the human body is to protect our bone mineral density. So when do estrogen levels start to drop for us females? When we hit those menopausal years. So perimenopause, menopause itself, and then postmenopause. So as you can imagine, if estrogen is protecting our bone mineral density, as estrogen declines at that rate, the rate of bone breakdown is at the same time increasing exponentially. So how do we counteract that from an exercise standpoint? That's with impact activity. Impact movements have the most impact, pun intended, on our bone mineral density. So if you are somebody who can do impact movements, whether that's heel drops, freeze drops, hanging drops, jogging in place, jump rope, etc., any of those types of movements, then you will be counteracting what's happening as estrogen levels are declining. Now, I won't talk about that HRT and things like that specifically in this particular video. But as you can see, if estrogen is going to decline and we're not going to be replacing it, then we've got to do something else to help with bone mineral density. And impact movements and exercises are going to give you the most bang for your buck. So estrogen's role with bones, very, very clear. How we can counteract that with impact movements. Now, staying with estrogen, estrogen also plays a big role in maintaining lean muscle mass. So, muscles, we get away from bones for a second. Let's talk about muscles and estrogen. Maintaining lean muscle mass. We'll get to the other one that helps build it here in a second. But right now, estrogen, maintaining lean muscle mass. So, if estrogen levels are declining, we don't have the ability now to maintain the muscle mass we have. We're not even talking about building, we're talking about maintaining what we have. So, how can we counteract that? With traditional strength training. Once again, when I use the word traditional, I mean using heavier weights. I mean progressing with our workouts. So, using 2-pound dumbbells may be where you start, but that's not where you stay. You're going to continue to progress your strength training and using heavier weights, using more repetitions, and doing more full body compound movements to help counteract the fact that estrogen levels are declining as we age. So, how do we counteract it? With strength training. So, the second hormone that I want to talk about is the one that we normally associate with men, and that's testosterone. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's watching this video. There's no such thing as a hormone that's just for the gender, okay? We as females have testosterone. Men, you have estrogen. We both have it. We just have them in varying levels, right? So men have way more testosterone than we do. But ladies, for the testosterone that we do have, it plays a very important role in not only building muscular strength, but also maintaining stamina. And it is extremely, extremely beneficial when it comes to the recovery process. So, testosterone, unfortunately, just like estrogen, starts to decline once we hit our menopausal years. I've already talked about how important strength training is, especially from an estrogen decline standpoint. So, we already know strength training is important. So, how do we counteract the fact that testosterone is also declining? I just mentioned that testosterone is very important for recovery. So in this case, making sure that we have adequate rest and recovery from our workouts is key. This is something that we didn't pay attention to a lot when we were in our 20s and 30s. But believe me, once you hit your 40s and beyond, the rest and recovery that you initiate after your workouts and throughout the week are just as important, if not more important, than the workout themselves. So make sure, especially if you're doing full body workouts, that you are taking at least a 24-hour break in between those workouts. If you're doing split workouts and doing upper body one day, lower body the next, that's completely fine. But if you are doing full body movements, make sure that you are taking a full 24 hours off before you initiate that same type of workout again. Your recovery is so important. And if we're already losing one of the hormones that's responsible for helping us recover, we have to make sure that we're more diligent in our recovery efforts. Number 3 on our list of very important hormones during the menopausal years, and of course, if you are dealing with any type of osteopenia or osteoporosis, is going to be cortisol. Now, for most of you, you know cortisol as the stress hormone. And as we age, as we continue to have chronic stressors in our lives, cortisol also stays high. This is not a good thing, okay? Especially when it comes to how we recover and how we build muscle as we go. We've already talked about the importance of strength training and impact and things like that. But in this case, because cortisol is considered the stress hormone, we now want to counteract that by really paying attention to how we prioritize our stress management. What is it that we're going to do to remove some of those chronic stressors from our lives? And this can be anything. This can be taking long walks. This can be doing meditation. This could be self-care techniques, et cetera, et cetera. The sky's the limit when it comes to stress relief, but it has to be a priority in our lives. So once again, as cortisol levels go up, everything we're trying to do from an exercise standpoint is it's almost a moot point until we can really, really address the chronic stressors in our lives. So that's how we're going to counteract the increasing cortisol levels, is by making sure that we prioritize our stress management. Last but not least, hormone number 4 that we're going to talk about today is insulin. Now, you've probably already noticed this in how your body has changed as you've aged. With the shifts of the other hormones, insulin starts to shift as well. And when insulin shifts, this is not only because insulin is responsible for regulating blood sugar. This not only is affecting our blood sugar levels, but it's also affecting how our body processes carbohydrates and where and how our body stores fat. So we've already talked about this before, but I'm going to come back to it now when we talk about insulin. How do we counteract this? This is with regular exercise, especially strength training. The more muscle we have in our body, the more lean muscle mass we have on our frame, the easier it is for our body to regulate our blood sugar levels, therefore keeping our insulin levels low. So if strength training wasn't already a top priority in your life, hopefully you can see now that strength training by itself can help out not just estrogen levels, but it's also going to help out our insulin levels as well. So to wrap this all up in a nice, neat little bow, let's think of the perfect combo to help us to not only increase our bone health, but to also increase our overall health. And when we talk about physical health, help us build that muscle that's so important. There's a really, really perfect combo for this, and that is strength plus protein plus recovery. So paying attention to your fitness, paying attention to your nutrition, and paying attention to your stress management, your self-care, and your recovery. Those 3 components right there are the perfect combination for how you not only improve your bone mineral density, but your overall health in general. And before I completely wrap this up, I mentioned it earlier. It's not my space, and this isn't the video where I'm going to talk about the advantages, disadvantages of HRT or hormone replacement therapy. I truly believe that is a beneficial way for a lot of women, and I know that I have men that watch this as well, to improve not only their symptoms of menopause, but to also improve bone mineral density. However, every person is individual, and because of that, I truly believe that HRT and things like that are something that you have got to discuss with your primary care physician and make sure that the 2 of you are working in collaboration with what is best for you. That's it, everybody. I hope this hot topic was beneficial for you. If you've got any questions or comments, drop them below in the comment section, and I will see you next week for another hot topic.